Hey guys, today I wanted to take you through rearranging the density equation to form two other equations that you can use to solve for mass and volume. If you haven't already, I highly recommend reviewing the other video that I posted, solving for variables in algebraic equations. That's going to take you through the math rules that we're going to use to rearrange this formula. It's going to give you a bit more of a foundation. So here I have the formula that we've been using to solve for density. Density equals mass divided by volume. This is great if you're looking for density, but what if you're looking for mass, or what if you're looking for volume? It's going to be hard to plug those numbers in and solve for what you need to find. So we're going to rearrange this formula so we can solve for mass. If I'm solving for mass, m, I need to get mass by itself. Right now, mass is linked to volume. Mass is being divided by volume. What can I do to this side of the equation to get mass by itself? That's right, if it's being divided by volume, I need to do the opposite. I need to multiply by volume. So I'm going to put my dot. Remember that dot in our class means multiplication. And I'm going to write v. I'm multiplying this side by volume, treating volume just like any other number. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to multiply density by volume too. And now I'm going to simplify. So density times volume is just density times volume. But when I look at the other side of my equation, these two volumes are exactly the same. That variable matches, which means that I can cancel it. So these volumes cancel out, and I'm left with my mass. This is the second formula that you're going to need to solve density problems. I'm going to write it on the side. Mass equals density times volume. So I'm going to highlight that. I know the highlighting is really hard to see. How about I just put a box around it instead? So our first volume is density equals mass divided by volume. Our second formula is mass equals density times volume. So we've got two different formulas. This one is solving for density. This one is solving for mass, and you just plug in the two variables that you're given. There is one more variable that we need to solve for, and that is volume. So I'm going to draw a line to show a new problem. And I'm going to start off with this initial formula, density equals mass divided by volume. So volume is on the bottom, and I want to get volume by itself. If mass is being divided by volume, what do I need to do to that volume to get it out from the bottom? That's right, I need to do the opposite. I need to multiply. So just like on top, I'm going to multiply the right side by volume. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So I'm going to multiply the left side by volume too. I'm going to simplify. So on my left side, I have density times volume equals, since these volumes are exactly the same, they cancel, and I'm left with m. Well, this is a problem because I'm trying to solve for volume, but volume's not by itself. It's still linked to a letter. It's linked over here to density now. So I've separated it from mass, but it's attached to density. If volume is being multiplied by density, how can I get volume by itself? What do I need to do? That's right, I need to do the opposite. I need to divide. What do I divide by? Well, I've got to divide both sides by the same thing. If I divide both sides by v, then I'm back to where I began. But I can divide both sides by d instead. Let's try that. And now I'm going to simplify. So on the left side of my equation, the d on the top is the same as the d on the bottom, so these are going to cancel. and I'm going to be left with V equals, and mass divided by density is just that, mass divided by density. So that's going to stay the same. This is the third equation that you're going to use, and I'm going to write it over here on the side. Volume equals mass divided by density. I'm going to put a box around this. So these are the three equations you're going to use to solve your density problems. If you're solving for density, you use mass divided by volume. If you're solving for mass, you use density times volume. And if you're solving for volume, you use mass divided by density. Again, we didn't really change anything. I didn't create any new formulas. I didn't add any new variables. I just rearranged the variables that we were given so I could isolate either mass or volume. But this all came from the exact same equation, the density equation that we started with. I know in middle school, a lot of y'all were exposed to density triangles. If you haven't seen that, I'm going to draw it here on the bottom. I don't want you to use this. This is a middle school thing. We will be doing math that's a lot more complicated than this. But I want to show you how this triangle relates to the formulas that we solved. So this triangle would give you mass on the top, and it would give you density on the bottom and volume on the bottom. And they would tell you, okay, whichever variable you are looking for, you just cover it up. So if I was looking for density, I'd have mass and volume. And they'd tell you that this line across here means division, and this line in between means multiplication. So you'd look at your two variables and say, okay, because my line is here, that means division, so I divide mass by volume. So they say, if you're looking for density, divide mass by volume. Well, that matches what we know from our formula. If I'm looking for density, I divide mass by volume. Makes sense. What if I was looking for mass? I would cover up the mass, and this would tell me that I multiplied density by volume. We got the exact same thing. If we're looking for mass, we multiply density times volume. But you don't need to memorize this triangle. You just need to apply your math rules, and you can rearrange that equation to figure out what you need to do for M. Last, they said that if you were looking for V, you covered up the V, and you divided mass by density. That's the same thing we got. When we were looking for V, we divided mass by density. But I didn't need to memorize this triangle. I needed to use my math rules to rearrange the equation. So you get the exact same thing you would if you were using the formula triangle, but you don't have to remember what goes on top and what goes to the left or the right, and do I multiply or do I divide? You don't have to memorize this at all. Start with your formula, use your algebra rules to get the variable you want by itself, and that will always give you the correct formula that you need to use. So I hope this helps. We'll be reviewing this a little bit in class. Please come back to this this algebra equation rearrangement video as often as you need to. I want you to be very confident in how to rearrange these formulas in order to get the variable that you need to solve for. Thanks, guys. Keep learning.